Look at her face. She's been tied to this chair for hours. That blood on her finger? Real. They actually cut her. The chainsaw behind her? Working blade. Those bones on the set? Human skeletons. 110-degree heat. Rotting meat everywhere. The crew's throwing up outside. One actor was a Vietnam vet. He said this was worse than war. The Texas Chain Saw Massacre became a legend, but I can't stop thinking about what it cost these people. Imagine being in that room. No escape, no one stopping, just 27 hours of hell. And you're thinking, this is just a movie, right? Let me show you when it stopped being one.
Yes, it was real effective. We were ready to kill each other.
Come on, Franklin. It's gonna be a fun trip.
So here's what you need to know. Summer 1973, Central Texas. A 21-year-old film student named Tobe Hooper convinced a group of unknown actors to make a horror movie. The budget? $60,000. That's it. For context, that's about $300,000 today, which sounds like a lot until you realize most Hollywood films spent that on catering alone. They cut corners everywhere, a lot of corners. And when I first learned about this production, I thought, okay, low-budget indie film, tough conditions, whatever, that's filmmaking, right? But then I started digging into what actually happened on that set, and I realized this wasn't just tough. This was something else entirely. See, most of these actors had never worked together before. Some had barely acted at all. They showed up in rural Texas, middle of summer, thinking they were making a scrappy little horror movie. They had no idea what they were walking into. Okay, so let's start with something that still blows my mind. You know those skeletons you see in the film? The furniture made of bones, the decorations, all that gnarly stuff? Real human skeletons. I'm not joking. Actual human remains. Here's why. They needed skeletons for the set, so the production team goes to get quotes on prop skeletons, plastic ones, movie props. Turns out, too expensive. But then, someone discovered you could import real human skeletons from India for medical research, and those were cheaper, so that's what they did. Now, when I first read this, I had to stop for a second, because think about that choice. Someone on that production sat down and did the math and went, yeah, real human bones are the budget option here. The cast didn't know this at first, by the way. They thought it was all movie magic. Imagine finding out mid-shoot that you've been handling actual human remains for weeks, and nothing has even started yet. But okay, that's disturbing, sure, but at least bones can't hurt you, right? Let's talk about the chainsaw. Gunnar Hansen played Leatherface, and the chainsaw he used? A Poulin 306A, real chainsaw, actually running. Now, they did remove the chain teeth for some shots, but not all of them. And even without teeth, you've got a heavy piece of machinery with a running motor inches from people's faces. There's this one scene where Leatherface kills Kirk. The chainsaw comes within 3 inches of actor William Vale's head. 3 inches.
The belt guy and dives out the door, ruining the shot. He was so frightened he couldn't do the take.
No one had seen this kind of thing. People didn't know how to react.
Vale later said Hooper told him, stay completely still or you might actually die. And here's the thing that gets me. Gunnar Hansen, the guy holding the chainsaw, was wearing a leather mask that completely blocked his peripheral vision. He couldn't see properly. He's got this running chainsaw, and he's supposed to chase Marilyn through the woods at night. She actually said in an interview that the chase scenes were genuinely terrifying because neither of them could hear the director yelling, cut, over the noise of the chainsaw. So Gunnar just kept chasing her, and she didn't know when it was going to stop. And that's when the accident started. At one point, Gunnar slipped in fake blood during a scene. The chainsaw went flying, just up in the air. Spinning blade landed a few feet from him. He wasn't hurt somehow, but can you imagine? 1 foot to the left, and this whole production ends with an actual death. The hammer they used for the grandpa scenes? Also real. Sure, the actor was aiming for the floor, not Marilyn's head, but it's still a real hammer, being swung. Multiple takes. William Vale got hit in the face with what was supposed to be a rubber hammer, gave him a black black eye. Everything that could be real was real because real was cheaper. Now, before we go further, I want you to understand something. When these actors signed on, they thought they were making a normal horror movie. Low budget, sure, but normal. Most of them didn't even meet Gunnar Hansen until their actual death scenes. Think about that. Your first time seeing Leatherface isn't at rehearsal. It's not at a table read. It's when he's actually chasing you with a running chainsaw. There was no, okay, here's how this is gonna work. No safety meeting. No, let's practice this. They just did it. And then people started bleeding for real. Let me tell you about Marilyn Burns. There's a scene where Sally's finger gets cut so Grandpa can suck her blood, right? Super disturbing scene. They had this whole setup. Fake knife with a tube of fake blood in the handle. Gunnar's supposed to drag the blade across Marilyn's finger while squeezing the tube, except the tube kept clogging. Take after take, it wouldn't work. And they're already 19 hours into this shoot. Everyone's exhausted. The room stinks. It's brutally hot. So Gunnar, in his own words, went crazy. He ripped the safety tape off the blade and just cut her finger. For real, Marilyn's actual blood in that scene. She talked about this years later, and you could tell it still bothered her. But the fact that in that moment, the line between movie and reality just disappeared. And that wasn't her only injury. During the chase scenes, Marilyn's running through actual Texas brush, thorns, branches, all of it. She got cut up badly, like really badly. A lot of the blood you see on her costume in the final act, that's hers. Her costume got so soaked with fake blood mixed with real blood that by the end of the shoot, it had dried into a solid mass. There's a scene where Sally jumps out a second-story window. Marilyn did that stunt herself, and she actually hurt her ankle on the landing. You know that limp she has while running in the final scenes? That's real. She's actually limping because she's actually injured. Watch the film again knowing that. It hits different. But Marilyn wasn't the only one suffering. Gunnar Hansen had his own nightmare. They gave him one costume, one Leatherface outfit. That's it. And because they couldn't afford continuity errors, they couldn't wash it. So Gunnar wore the same leather apron and shirt for 4 straight weeks in the Texas summer. The smell got so bad that nobody would eat lunch near him. He became completely isolated from the rest of the cast. And then there's the leg burn. There's a scene where Leatherface accidentally cuts his own leg with the chainsaw. They put a metal plate under Gunnar's pants for protection, covered it with a meat slab and a blood bag. The chainsaw hits the plate. Except the friction from the blade heated up the metal so much, it literally burned through Gunnar's skin. That scream? Real pain. Edwin Neal, who played the hitchhiker, fell on the hot asphalt during filming. It was so hot it burned his face. But all of that? That was just warm-up, because we haven't talked about the dinner scene yet. Okay, deep breath. This is where it gets really bad. The dinner scene. You know the one. Sally tied to the chair, surrounded by the family, Grandpa trying to kill her with a hammer. That scene was shot in one continuous 27-hour session. 27 hours. Here's why. The makeup for Grandpa took nearly 10 hours to apply, and John Dugan, the actor, absolutely refused to go through that process twice. So they had to shoot every single scene with Grandpa in one go. They started filming at night. The sun came up. The sun went back down. They were still shooting. The temperature outside was hitting 110, 115 degrees. Inside the house, with all the lights and equipment, even hotter. They'd blacked out all the windows to make it look like night, so there's no air circulation, no breeze, nothing. The food props on the table started rotting from the heat. The real bones they'd used as decorations started burning under the lights. The smell was so horrific that crew members were literally running outside to throw up. Marilyn Burns said she'd go to the windows between takes just to breathe air that didn't make her gag. 27 hours of that. Edwin Neal, remember, was a Vietnam veteran. After filming Wrap, someone asked him about the dinner scene.
Through triple canopy jungle in Vietnam, easier than what Marilyn had to do in this film.
Let that sink in. A man who survived war said this movie set was worse. Gunnar Hansen later said the chainsaw dance at the end of the film, where Leatherface is spinning around in frustration, that was his last chance to kill Hooper. He meant it as a joke, kind of. Edwin Neal said in an interview that he might actually kill Hooper if he ever saw him again. It took years for the cast to forgive him. The Texas Chain Saw Massacre made over $30 million. The cast members got paid almost nothing. Some of them received checks for $28.45, 9 months after filming Wrapped. Marilyn Burns died in 2014. Gunnar Hansen passed away in 2015. The film became legendary, one of the most influential horror movies ever made. But sometimes I wonder what it cost them. Real blood, real bones, real trauma. When you watch that film, you're watching people at their breaking point. And the thing that haunts me? Some of them never really left that house. That scream you hear? That was real.